instruct people how they can participate, and then we'll go through kind of the order of operations here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, members of the board, members of the public. Today's meeting of the Historic Preservation Board will be conducted in a hybrid format with the board physically present in the commission chambers at Miami Beach City Hall and applicant, staff, and members of the public appearing either in person or virtually via Zoom. To participate in today's meeting via Zoom, the public may dial 1-888-475-4499 and enter the webinar ID, which is 817-4834-7488#, or log into the Zoom app and enter the webinar ID, which again is 817-4834-7488. If you wish to speak on an item, please click the raise hand icon if you are using the Zoom app, or dial *9 if you're participating by phone. If you're appearing on behalf of a business, a corporation, or another person, including as an architect, attorney, or representative of an applicant or an objector, you need to register as a lobbyist with the City Clerk's office before you speak to the board. If you haven't registered yet, you should register prior to appearing. You do not have to register as a lobbyist if you're speaking only on behalf of yourself and not any other party, or if you're testifying as an expert witness providing only scientific, technical, or other specialized information or testimony in this public meeting, or if you're appearing as a representative of a neighborhood association without any compensation or reimbursement for your appearance, to express support of or opposition to any item. Expert witnesses and representatives of neighborhood associations shall, prior to appearing, disclose in writing to the city clerk their name, address, and the principal on whose behalf they are communicating. These rules apply whether you're appearing in favor of or against an item, or encouraging or arguing against its passage, defeat, modification, or continuance. I would now like to swear in any members of the public or staff who will be providing testimony today. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nick. So as far as the order of operations, for each item that we call, the staff will present the item and describe their recommendations to the board. The board will then be permitted to ask questions of staff to understand the recommendations. The applicant will then make their presentation. The board will have questions for the applicant, most likely. Ideally, if we can take all the questions together and then answer them all in one rather than a back and forth, that typically works a little bit better. And then applicant responds and then has a seat, and then we'll do board disclosures, and then we'll open the public hearing. We'll permit rebuttal to the extent that the applicant desires or it's necessary. And then we will take our votes. So with that, Debbie, we have our approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to let everyone know I'm filling in for Michael Belush today. It's a privilege and honor to be with you through the agenda this morning. Yes, the first order of business is the approval of the June 9th minutes. Does anyone have any edits, or we can entertain a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved. Madam Chair, we also have a couple requests for continuances this morning, and I'll just go right into that. The first application is HPB 260685. This is an application for the citywide digital information kiosks. I know the board is familiar with these. You've seen several of them over the past couple years. This one in particular is located at Espanola Way and Drexel Avenue. The other two that are part of this application were actually approved previously back in April. The applicant is currently still refining this particular location and is requesting a continuance to a future meeting. Matt, we will need a date certain, so if you could maybe explain to the board when you feel like you will be able to come back.
Sure, thank you. Matt Amster with the law firm of Burke, Howard, Fernandez, Larkin, and Tapanes. Offices at 200 South Biscayne Boulevard in Miami. Here today representing Ike Smart City LLC as Debbie, and good to see you here, and congratulations on your new role. We took three locations to you all in April. There was concern both at staff level as well as the nearby stakeholders at that Espanola Way, and the commission did approve for both Espanola Way as a corridor and Washington as part of that that 3-package location deal. So we got 2 of them approved on Washington, and the team has been looking at not just Espanola Way, but also the nearby Washington areas to see if we can find another suitable location for this. It's taking a little longer, but we want to make sure everybody's on board. So we wish to continue to the October 13th meeting to give us time to finish up discussions, find a location, and then we will have to submit plans to staff to review and get to you all. So October 13th, if we could, please.
And staff has no objection to that.
I'd make a motion to approve the continuance till October 13th.
Second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that, we will see you back in October.
Thank you all very much.
The next application requesting a continuance is HPB 250670. This is 1835 Michigan Avenue. This particular application is specific to a variance for the seawall. The applicant is requesting a continuance to the November 10th meeting, and staff has no objection to that. We have been meeting with the property owner and we've expressed some concerns about the variance, given the condition of the property during high-impact flooding events. And so we have no objection to the request for continuance.
Is the applicant here today?
Let me see, if you're on Zoom representing 1835 Michigan, please raise your hand. Madam Chair, I do not see anyone representing this particular application.
Ms. Director,
Yes.
this matter has been presented to us several times, it appears. Has the property owner made any, done any remediation to mitigate the flooding concerns?
Not that I am aware of. Giselle, do you know if Michael had met with the property? I think he said he had met with them. I just don't know if any remediation work has occurred.
Yeah, my understanding is that they wanted to continue to the November agenda just to make sure that, I know there was discussion regarding the Kingside to see if there's an inspection so that hopefully, given that it doesn't flood, that's something that they wanted to at least report in our staff report. So they wanted to wait until November since there was concerns about, in Kingside with the seawall.
Well,
That
that
was-
is when king tides.
Yeah.
Arrive. Is there a limit to how many continuance requests?
Yes.
an applicant-
The maximum number of days an application can be continued at a single time is 120 days. The maximum life of an application is 12 months or 1 calendar year. So, this particular application is nearing the end of its life. It was originally presented to the board in November of 2025. Therefore, the latest it can be continued out before the application would just become void is the November 10th HPV meeting.
Is there currently a notice of violation or fines accruing?
There was a notice of violation for repair work done to the seawall without a permit. That's really how we found out about this. The property owner hired someone to make some very minor repairs to the seawall. That triggers the height requirements for the seawall. So when you're making a repair, depending on the extent of the repair and the cost of the repair, it requires some elevation of the seawall. Again, the amount of height elevation of the seawall is contingent upon the actual scope of your repairs. So we had met with the property owner, again, this goes back over a year ago, to give them their options. And they chose to request a variance to not be required to elevate the seawall.
So what happens if that application expires, and so they go back to the violation and they have to do the necessary remediation?
Correct. So the violation would not become closed until a permit was issued for the repairing the seawall.
And so the permit absent the variance, would need to be at the higher seawall height.
Correct.
And so that would be the only resolution to the variance. So either they get a variance at the lower height, or they don't get a variance and they have to get a building permit at the code requirement.
So what mechanisms does the city have to enforce violations?
Well, we do issue fines. For building violations, specifically for work without a permit, we can issue unsafe structures violations. This is unique because it's a seawall, so typically when we see work without a permit and an unsafe structures violation being issued, the remedy for that in most cases is demolition. Well, we wouldn't want, and, we wouldn't be okay with the seawall being demolished just because someone went in and repaired it without any authorization. Our goal is for the property to come into compliance, to receive all of the required permits for the seawall repair, whether that's with a variance or eliminate the variance and actually come in with a revised permit to show the elevation and height.
I also wanted to note that it appears their last violation was in October in 2025. So we haven't received, at least on record, any recent violations.
Okay.
Do we have any further questions or a motion?
I'll make the motion to continue this till November 10th.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that was Ray, second.
November.
I think the motion was on for October meeting. They're requesting for November 10th, 2026.
That
That's
was
recent.
my motion.
Yeah, your motion was November 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the next application is HPB 0690. This is 280 to 300 South Shore Drive. This is an application for a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of a senior housing project. Specifically, this is a modification requesting a front setback variance and corresponding modification of a condition of the prior approval to permit an as-built FP&L transformer in the required front yard. So I'm going to turn it over to Giselle, who will give you some more specifics.
Sure. So on June 14, 2022, the Historic Preservation Board did approve a certificate of appropriateness for the construction of an elderly housing project on a vacant site. It included variances from the minimum setbacks and waivers. Subsequently, the applicant did receive a full building permit for the construction. However, during the permitting process, the FPL vault was relocated to comply with flood requirements, FPL, and Florida Building Code. As constructed, the FPL vault is 12 feet from the front property line, where 25 feet is required. It is important to know that when they received the approval, they actually had a 22-foot front setback variance that was granted to them. Staff notes that in the waterfront properties that's in the North Beach National Register overlay, it is required to have that 25-foot setback in the front. Just as a comparison, in the non-waterfront lots, it's usually 20 feet. However, what we've noticed through some permit history regarding the adjacent properties, it's actually more common that a lot of these properties sit at a 15-foot front setback. So the vault is actually a little bit more consistent and in line to like the established developmental pattern. As the applicant is requesting this variance for the front setback, as well as amending a condition in the final order that does state that the FPL vault has to be enclosed within the building envelope. Right now, as it sits, it's not feasible to locate or relocate that FPL vault simply because that would mean demolishing the existing building as constructed that was already approved at HPB, as well as they already received full building permit. However, the applicant is mitigating in a way where they have a 6-foot wall as well as these clusia hedges, just so that it's at least not visible from the pedestrian sidewalk. Therefore, we feel that based on these findings, staff concludes that the request represents the minimum variance necessary that won't negatively impact since it's not necessarily visible from the street view. We support the requested variance and the amendment to the final order.
Yeah, thank you, Giselle. If I could just add, because I was very intimately involved in when we had these projects. We have Vista and Breeze across the street. They're companion projects for elderly affordable housing. I think this is just a really great example for the city to see how affordable housing can integrate really creative and high quality design without, significant high-end costs. And I think that both of these projects were extremely successful in increasing our housing stock while still being very creative and still really speaking to the character of the neighborhood in North Beach, which is a, predominantly post-war modern architectural style. So I just wanted to express the city's satisfaction of these two properties. I believe, and I'll let the applicant speak, but both projects have received TCOs, and I think they're fully leased, and people are moving in and able to enjoy both of these properties. So this is a real success story from my perspective, as the planning director, but also from my previous role as a historic preservation officer for the city. So with that, we can turn it over to the applicant.
Do we have any questions for staff before the applicant?
They need a vault in order to have the electric, so you indicated people have moved in. I'm a little concerned about that. How does that work?
So
Either or.
it wasn't, these were requirements of FP&L, when the project was under construction. I don't think it's a full vault. It's more of a transformer. So it's not one of these, 1,000 square foot vault rooms. It's really just a transformer. And that has been installed. So FP&L required this. It's an after the fact situation that we're dealing with here.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Go ahead, Haskell.
Why was this not integrated into the original design process?
So, and I'll let the architect speak to this. They did include this type of equipment that FP&L requires. However, during the construction process, FP&L, my experience is often requires different things. So what you think is going to be the requirement during your design development phase, and even potentially during the early construction phase of the project, can turn out to require changes once FP&L has issued a final authorization to power the property. I've seen this happen on multiple occasions, where we go through, or the applicant goes through an entire vetting process, HPB and pre-building permit with FP&L, and then somehow along the line, the rules change. And, we've had several of these actually come to the Historic Preservation Board over the years, that were in very similar situations.
And not to go too far off the topic, but how do we improve that process with FPL? And I know I was there when you had almost this exact
Yes.
conversation the other day, so I'm just curious.
I'm hopeful. We've had contacts over the years and have had conversations with FP&L over the years. But I was recently at the chamber speaking on behalf of the planning department, and I was given a contact information for one of the chamber members for FP&L. So I'm hopeful that we can continue our relationship and actually have more clarity from staff's perspective, so that we can better, instruct our applicants. But I think, what we're going to do is going to continuously try to understand the FP&L process and hopefully, connect applicants and avoid some of these situations in the future.
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth, did you have a question?
No, that was my question.
Okay, perfect. All right, so go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Cecilia Torres Toledo, Ackerman LLP, offices at 98 Southeast 7th Street, here on behalf of the applicant, Vista Breeze LTD, as well as the Miami Beach Housing Authority. Staff did a fantastic job summarizing what the application is, so we'll have a very brief presentation, understanding that not all of you were here in 2022 when this was approved. And it really is a very cool project, and Jeffrey is very passionate about it, and it's a benefit to hear him talk about it. So we do want to give you a very brief presentation, if you can bring that up, PJ. So as staff mentioned, this was approved back in 2022. It is an affordable housing project located on Normandy Isle, very close to the golf course. And one thing that's unique about this is that it presents an opportunity, affordable elderly housing waterfront, right, in modern amenities, which is something that, people don't really get the benefit of often. Here you see a little bit better where the location is. And I will let Jeffrey walk you through the project. One thing I do want to point out is that this is the most significant investment in affordable housing for our elderly population in almost 50 years. Based on the data that I was able to review from the Miami Beach Housing Authority, the biggest affordable housing project for the elderly was built in 1979. It's the Rosemary Towers, and those are about 400 units. In the almost 50 years that have passed since 1979, we've only been able to add about 60 more units. And the Vista and Breeze projects combined offer 119 affordable housing units for the elderly. So this really is the most significant project that we've done for our elderly population. And it's modern, contemporary build. It's an opportunity for people who would otherwise be priced out of the city to continue to live in their communities and in a very dignified manner. This is a very important project, and I'm very proud to be representing them today. And with that, I will hand it over to Jeffrey to talk a little bit about the design.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, board members. Jeff Huber, principal with Brooks Scarpa Huber Architects. I'm the architect and the landscape architect of record on this project. The building, is carefully thought about around all of its edges, around all the open spaces. I can get into a lot of the details, but we did work with FPL from day one to design this. It's just the issues came about when the inspectors came on the site. The building was designed as a public-private partnership, as Cecilia mentioned, and this is with the Housing Authority of the City of Miami Beach. So it's providing 70 permanently affordable homes for elderly residents who are going to be able to remain in Miami Beach and invested in their community. So the architectural character of this project really draws from that Miami modernism, from that post-war modernism era, as Debbie mentioned. And this is a very prominent style along South Shore Drive. And it's simple horizontal massing, shaded openings, light-colored surfaces, screens, and carefully proportioned volumes. It is contemporary, but intentionally grounded in the architectural character of North Beach. Every unit is designed for accessibility and long-term livability. The apartments include accessible bathrooms, kitchens, outdoor views, and the intent is not to simply put or provide housing, but it's to provide homes for support, independence, comfort, and daily quality of life for the elderly population that lives in here. The shared spaces are designed for a social infrastructure as well. And so community rooms, a business center, gathering areas, and other amenities create opportunities for residents to meet, remain engaged, and to access services. The stairs are prominently located in areas that are inviting, where the elevators are actually less visually dominant, and that's to encourage everyday movement and to inform a kind of social interaction that does not compromise the accessibility of the project. These exterior spaces are also equally important. These courtyards, shaded walkways, gardens, and seating areas create places for conversation, rest, and recreation, and the landscape includes drought-tolerant, salt-tolerant species, pollinator planting, and habitats for native flora. And these spaces support both environmental performance as well as physical and mental well-being of the residents. So the project, does advance a lot of the city's goals, and I'm going to hand it back off to Cecilia to talk through those.
So to point out that this project directly implements some of the goals and policies in the city's comprehensive plan, which are encouraging the development of affordable housing. Other policies in your comprehensive plan also speak directly to providing housing to our vulnerable populations in proximity to transit, which is exactly what this project is doing by bringing 70 affordable housing units here in Normandy Isle, with the sister project a total of 119. As I mentioned, this was already approved by the Historic Preservation Board, and as Debbie mentioned, it's not uncommon that projects come to you in a conceptual stage, right? And as we get into the permitting process and architects that start paying attention more intently to other codes such as FEMA, FPL, and Florida Building Code, things shift around, and that's exactly what happened here. By the time the encroachment was detected, we were weeks away from TCO, and relocation of the vault was simply not feasible without substantial demolition of this just-built project, which would delay delivery of these affordable housing units a lot more. As staff also mentioned, Giselle and Michael did some research on the as-built environment, and reality is that although there is a 25 setback requirement for this property, the abutting properties are built out at about 15 feet of setback. So our request for a 13-foot setback variance, which would put us at 12, is actually consistent with the as-built environment and will not negatively impact our neighbors. I will also mention that this team went above and beyond to mitigate visual impacts of the FPL vault. For example, FPL doesn't allow you to have plantings in front of the vault. That has to be accessible at all times. And Jeffrey was able to convince them to have low-scale plantings in front of the FPL vault to kind of mitigate that visual impact. Of course, if FPL needs to access the vault, that will need to be trimmed down and replanted. But it really does make it so that any potential negative impact is mitigated. With that being said, we ask that you please approve this variance, and we are available for any questions that the board may have.
Do we have questions for the applicant? Okay, so I have a question, if no one else does. The statement was made by the time we realized it was already too late to fix it. And talked about when the inspector showed up, that's when this, so to walk me through the process that brought us here, right? Like, why was this? Because if you're constantly in communication with FPL, I'm trying to understand, and you have a building permit that says you have a setback, how did this get constructed outside of that setback and no one walk me through that, if you will.
Well, first, when we went and came to HPB in 2022 under the first certificate of appropriateness, we were already working with FPL's planning and design teams to design the FPL transformer in the place, and it was accepted at that time. Subsequently, numerous things happened between FEMA, FPL, as well as a few other things in the permitting process, as well as through the construction process that ultimately kind of created this challenge. Because we understood that this was a historic district, and we wanted to go ahead and shield and clearly, keep the transformer behind kind of evidence. Well, they required us to kind of turn those walls 90 degrees and actually have that access to the street. And at that time, we were okay, still within compliance, but then FPL came out a second time and asked that they did not want this transformer anywhere underneath the overhangs of that building, which was how we designed it to have the proper amount of height that was required, which was 14 feet, clear space. They still wanted it to be moved out further, and that subsequently was a tremendous amount of cost on the contractor and the development team because we had already constructed it per what was, we didn't set the transformer yet. It wasn't powered on, but we had constructed the walls. And at that time, that's when things started to shift. We were required to keep this transformer at the existing grade too, which was a challenge in this project. We really did everything we could to make it as resilient as possible to future sea level rise as well as flood adaptation. And so it still has flood panels, and that was one of the things we were able, as Cecilia mentioned, to negotiate with FPL through this process towards right at the end. I mean, the Breezes transformer was actually one of the last elements that we constructed on the site. And so, and being it powered on, I mean, we had the building essentially done with finishes and everything in the building before we actually powered the building on because of this transformer constant issue where we were trying to work through it. But it was just the challenge because it's not a regulation, it's a guideline. And I think that's the biggest problem in working with FPL is sometimes that the guideline, whoever's interpreting that, can change over time. And so that's ultimately what this project fell into, was an interpretation request that was not going to be relieved.
Okay, that's informative to me, so thank you. If we have no other questions for the applicant, do we have anybody who wants to speak on this item in the public?
I see no one on Zoom to speak on this item. Anyone in the audience?
I'd make a motion to approve the modifications and variance.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, it's a nice project.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everyone.
you, appreciate it.
Okay, is my mic on? Okay. The next application is HPB 260694. This is 1011 Fifth Street, PNC Bank. An application has been filed requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed exterior facade improvements to an existing non-contributing commercial building within the Ocean Beach Historic District, including the addition of a new architectural canopy at the primary entrance, updated building signage, fiber cement panel accent elements, and integrated architectural lighting and minor modifications to the entry vestibule. And I'm going to turn it over to Giselle for more detailed information.
Hi, as Debbie mentioned, this application is limited to exterior facade improvements or non-contributing building that was constructed in 1995 in the Ocean Beach Historic District. The proposed work includes the installation of a new canopy at the main entrance, the removal of the existing signage at the primary entrance, the installation of the fiber cement accent panels with integrated architectural lighting, and modifications to the existing entry vestibule, the replacement of the existing door with a fixed glass panel to maintain the transparency at the storefront. The interior improvements for the project was previously permitted and approved under a master permit as well as a revision, and the work has commenced. The applicant is proposing to remove the framing of the existing signage and replace the double entry doors. This is so that it matches the glass panel. It's a little bit more consistent. The proposal introduces dark fiber cement vertical accent panels, the LED lighting that's like an orange, red accent, and a Helios canopy to match the fiber cement panels. It will be illuminated with 24-inch sign letters, some wall scones, and a 4-foot diameter power link sign. Staff recommends a photometric plan to be provided and that all the exterior accent lighting will be static and white with a color temperature of 3000 K maximum in order to minimize the glare and the impacts around the surrounding area. Staff also recommends that the system be equipped with a programmable timer that reduces the intensity during late hours and to be turned off all the decorative lighting by midnight. In summary, staff is supportive of the exterior design improvements on the subject site and recommends the approval and the conditions enumerated in the draft order.
Thank you, Giselle. Do we have any questions for staff from the board? Okay, go ahead.
All right. Hello, my name is Adriana Alban. I'm a project manager and architect with RSNH. I'll be representing PNC Bank and the landlord for this project, and I'll be presenting. I don't know if we have the presentation up and ready.
Please use the laptop on your left.
Okay, all right. So this project is a PNC Bank. We're located in Miami Beach. It's about a 5,000 square foot project on 1011 Fifth Street, Suite A, Miami Beach, Florida. The scope of work, as previously mentioned, is composed of repainting of the exterior, the addition of a 24-inch letter set sign and a power link sign, and the addition of fiber cement panels with LED lighting, as well as the addition of an entry canopy, replacement of the vestibule door with a glass panel. Within our letter of intent here, we explained the summary that Giselle kind of went over a little bit earlier. The project includes the proposal of an exterior facade improvement for the PNC Bank tenant space. We are located within the Ocean Beach Historic District. The existing building is a non-contributing commercial structure, and the intent is that for the proposed work is to refresh the tenant frontage and to improve the pedestrian entry experience while maintaining the existing light white appearance of the building while introducing some durable and coordinated facade design elements that are consistent with the PNC Bank brand and surrounding context. To recap again on the scope of work, we're going to be removing the existing signage framing. We'll see that a little bit later on the exterior elevations that we have put together. We'll be repainting the exterior in the color white. We'll be adding new fiber cement accent panels along the vertical fins that we see throughout the building, and proposing to add LED linear lighting within that in the color orange, which is consistent with the PNC branding. New exterior wall sconces and a new architectural canopy at the primary entrance with updated PNC tenant signage and illuminated signage elements, as well as the replacement of that entry vestibule door with the glass panel. Exclusions that are here on this project, we're not going to be modifying anything in regards to the building footprint, height, massing, site layout, the parking, or any landscape areas. All of those are to remain unchanged. The interior tenant improvements are being addressed separately and are not part of these HPV requests. We have included the building permit number as well as the permit revision for that in here as well for reference. This is our zoning information here. The total square footage of this building is around 12,000 square foot. It's about 30 feet high. We have about 29 existing parking spaces, which will not be modified as previously mentioned. We're within the Ocean Beach Historic District, a non-contributing building, built in 1995, and zoning CPS 2. And then we have some of the additional requested information in there. I'm not going to go through it all, but this is our context location plan. This is just a half-mile radius site plan here showing where our site is located within the Miami Beach context. An existing aerial of the site. The orange block that you see there is the PNC leased space. This is our site plan here. Again, no changes are being proposed to the site layout. The existing site plan will remain as is currently. Oops. Oops, sorry. I don't know why that appeared there. That was our photometric plan. This is our existing floor plan. Existing conditions and demolition plan reflecting the approved permitted layout. The interior work was previously permitted and is shown for reference on here. As previously mentioned, we are approved for this one. This one's currently in construction for the interior portion of the building as shown here. The existing exterior elevations scope here, the existing signage framing is to be removed. We're showing that at the top of this entry vestibule right here, as recommended by the pre-application meeting before the board. We'll be removing the existing double doors located here and be replacing that with the new glass pane. These are some current images of the interior of the space. That was before construction started. Right here is our proposed plan. Again, there's not really any changes being proposed here, just kind of reflecting what has been permitted already. some existing exterior images of the surrounding context, just kind of showcasing here so how some of the surrounding buildings generally maintain that light or white primary facade and have some of those darker accent colors and materials that are being used throughout the areas and the storefronts for these sites, and just kind of showcasing how we are trying to mimic the same idea for the PNC Bank within their brand colors. These are some historical exterior images just to show the progression of the building throughout the years. We see 2008, 2011, 2017, and 2022 on here. Here are proposed exterior elevations. On the south facade, we see the addition of the fiber cement panels in that dark charcoal color along the vertical existing fins there, and then the integrated lighting in the orange color representative of the PNC typical marketing logo and colors on there. And then we see the 24-inch letter set on the new architectural canopy and the 4-foot diameter power link signage on there as well. Currently, as we have this application submitted, we are proposing for those fins to go to this side of the entry, if you guys can see my cursor. We had been recommended in the past during our pre-application meeting to try and investigate the possibility of extending that treatment of the facade throughout the remainder of the building, and we have discussed that with the landlord, and he's agreed to let us do that. So we do have updated elevations and renderings that show the look of that, so that the entire building can have a more cohesive look. Right here, we included a detail of what we would be doing within those linear fins, adding that cladding detail and that lighting within it, and just some of the material properties of the fiber cement panel that we'll be using here. We're going with a matte finish, which minimizes the glare and visibility wear. This is ideal for high traffic pedestrian level applications, which is our case here. It's resistant to moisture, fading, raw insects, and fire. It's low maintenance and long-term performance. The steel finish provides a modern aesthetic and is consistent with the surrounding accent colors. And the stone block is an inspired appearance with durability of the fiber cement. And then lastly, we have some exterior images here. This is our southeast corner and what it looks like today. This is a daytime render view of what we are proposing in our current package. This is a nighttime view where we kind of see those LED lighting come to life a little bit more on the building. This is a south view here. This is an existing exterior image of what it looks like today. Daytime render of what we're proposing with those vertical fins and the lighting, the canopy as well, and then a nighttime render of what that would look like with the LED lighting as well. And lastly, we have included here that alternate option that I mentioned a little bit earlier after having discussions with the landlord after we submitted this final, our final set for the application. We did discuss with the landlord extending the same treatment throughout the entire facade. He was amenable to that, so we have included this alternative option here to extend that throughout the entire building to make it more cohesive. This is the preferred option now, so we ask that the board consider this as well. And we've included some exterior renderings of the daytime here of what that would look like if the both sides had the same treatment. And then we have our nighttime render here. And I'd like to welcome any questions or any comments that the board may have.
Does the board have any question for applicant?
Go ahead.
Could you please explain a little bit? So when you have the fins, it's kind of clear how you're wrapping it around, but where we have the staircases, how you are creating the illusion of a fin there?
Yes, we have
And
not.
I'm sorry, and then I have one more question.
Okay.
The black and the orange that you showed there, the surfaces will be painted on these colors, or the orange is just the color of the light?
It's just the color of the light for the orange. And then in regards to the question about the vertical fin along the stairs, we have not fully developed those details yet, but we would be creating some sort of elevated or raised detail that separates it from the building so that we can include that linear lighting behind those panels on there. We're still a little bit of a conceptual stage with it, but we can certainly develop that further.
Okay, and then the black will be painted black?
The black part is the Nichiha fiber cement panels. That will be-
Correct, but they will be dark?
Yes, there will be a dark charcoal
Okay,
gray.
yeah, that's what I was trying to
Yes.
understand. All right,
And we do have physical samples, if the board would like to look at those that we have brought. Those are our fiber cement panels that we're proposing here. Yes.
Yes, so the detail of that element on the stair volume, it's very important because
Okay.
since you don't have any surface separating the fin from the rest, it could be a deal breaker.
Okay, we can develop that further.
Elizabeth, do you have any more questions?
No, I just have a suggestion maybe that the fin, instead of being only on the front, to turn the corner too, and then the light would be at the corner, not on the sides like you show here. If you follow me.
Yes, so if you see here in this rendering that I'm kind of showcasing right now, on
Correct.
the vertical fins on the side of the entrance, we are putting that LED light on the front face of those fins, and then the ones that are at the entry vestibule, they go off the side. So that's the detail that we have to develop a little bit further. But the fiber cement panels would be protruding a little bit forward, and then those LED lights would come off the sides.
Right, so
slightly.
what I was suggesting is that when you have, because I mean, when you have the slim fins, it's easy because you have a U-shape cladding, right? So when you get to the stair volume, you don't have anything protruding and you have to create that, right?
Yes.
So what I was suggesting, instead of being only on one face, let's say the face facing the street, that you do perpendicular, so it's a corner, and the light is on the corner too, so that the dark material turns around the corner, so it has an end to it.
Okay, we can consider that.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant? No. And do we have anybody in the audience or on
Are there any
Zoom?
ex parte disclosures?
Do we have any disclosures?
Okay, Madam Chair, we do have someone on Zoom with a phone number ending in 5600. Oh, I apologize. We can take in
Go ahead,
person
Meg.
first.
Good morning, board members. Meg Lusto with Miami Design Preservation League. We concur with the staff recommendation to approve the proposed modifications. The scope of work consists of relatively minor changes to the building facade, including updates to the branding color palette and the addition of limited signage on a non-contributing building. As proposed, these modifications are appropriate in scale and character and are not expected to adversely affect the architectural integrity of this non-contributing structure. Thank you.
Okay, moving to Zoom, the phone number ending in 5600. Please state your name.
Hello?
Hello? Please state your name.
Hi, my name is Cristina Vega.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Cristina Vega, and I am representing Cyber Money Laundering and Real Estate Investigations Corp. We are here to object the application for PNC Bank HPB 26-0694 due to fraudulent statements in the documents supporting this application, which we discovered during our forensic analysis of the applicant's documents and legal status. We are also submitting the petition for the injunction under the Bank Secrecy Act to the U.S. Secretary of Treasury for PNC Bank's failure in having an efficient AML program. This board completely lacks subject matter jurisdiction to hear or approve this application under Miami Beach Land Development Regulations Section 2.1.1.1 and Section 2.13.7.c. An applicant must demonstrate an absolute and dispute land control and verified fee simple ownership of the subject property to establish standing. This application contains fraudulent statements regarding the owner of the property. The building permit card for permit DC 2526445 and the board agenda list items supporting the document. The owner is listed solely as NF Fifth Street LLC, Street going STREET. However, the official warranty deed recorded in Clerk's Files 2008 R132994 proves that the record title is held jointly by NF Fifth ST LLC and BK Fifth ST LLC as tenants in common. As you see, NF Fifth Street LLC is a legally
Thank you. Your time
corporate
has expired. Do we have anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Okay, and no one else in the audience. Do we have any board commentary? Do you have any rebuttal to?
So what they're saying is that we put the incorrect owner, is I guess what they're referencing to?
Go ahead, Nick.
To my knowledge, the application is properly before the board, and all of the disclosure requirements in the code have been satisfied.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
I would make a motion to approve the design change that you have for this building. Looks really nice. Did a nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Is this with the continuation of the fins throughout the facade of the building as presented today?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you.
Madam Chair, on the previous application, I failed to ask for ex parte disclosures. I apologize. Did any board members have any disclosures to make on the prior application? No?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your application was approved.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
we will be sending you the board's order
Okay.
in a week or so.
Perfect. And just to confirm, it was approved for the entire?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready for the next one?
I think so.
Great. The next application, HPB 260691, 2100 and 2111 Collins Avenue. This is the Bass Museum of Art. An application has been filed requesting a certificate of appropriateness for proposed additions and site improvements to the Bass Museum of Art campus, including the partial demolition of portions of the existing structure, demolition of the existing surface parking lot, construction of a new ground floor gallery building, the creation of a civic plaza and an elevated outdoor gathering space. So we have outlined in your staff report the history of the site. In the past 10 years, you can see there have been incremental expansions and improvements made to the property, all of which has come before the board in the past. The current proposal includes another addition. This is to further expand the museum. There are also some exterior accessibility and streetscape improvements that are proposed on the southwest portion of the campus. The proposal does include the removal of the existing surface parking lot, the introduction of a new gallery building, and the amenity outdoor areas. So it's important to note that the existing original building, which is the 1930 Russell Pancoast building, is not proposed to be altered in any substantive way as part of this application. There are some minor alterations proposed from the 1950 addition. However, those are limited to the interior finished floor of the space. There are some minor adjustments that are being proposed for connectivity of the different areas. Again, it's always a challenge when we have a building that's been added to over time because certain floor elevations can be at different levels and cause operational challenges for the museum. So they are correcting some of that. There's also a proposed new entry point in the Isosaki addition that was approved by this board in 2016. And staff has no objection to that. In general, staff is extremely supportive of this modest expansion. And we are at this point recommending a continuance only because we have been advised by the applicant that they are still looking at the materials and they're still potentially, at least at the time of writing this report, potentially looking at some adjustments to the fenestration. But we are supportive of the current proposed plan, and if if the board feels comfortable delegating some of that to staff, we have included a draft order with some draft recommended conditions. But other than that, we would also be pleased to bring this back with further details at your September meeting. One last note, the applicant is also requesting a waiver from this board. The Historic Preservation Board has the ability to approve loading space waivers when there is a contributing building on the site. In this particular instance, obviously the Historic Bass Museum is a contributing building, and they are required for the new addition one loading space. Given the configuration of the site, while they do have multiple street frontages, they don't have an alley, so they don't have any obvious back of house area that we would want to have a permanent loading space on the property. However, they are allowed to work with the city's parking department to provide on-street loading. And staff is supportive of that waiver. So with that, we are available for any questions you may have, or I see.
I think we have some board questions, right?
There is a loading space on 22nd Street for the Bass Museum. Wouldn't that count for this being added on as a separate?
Correct. They can, the on-street loading they can use. However, the code requires the loading to occur in the private property, privately owned property. This is a city-owned property, but it's still city property. So the waiver comes in when you're saying, when they're requesting to put it on street instead of in the property. Because it's new construction, that's what is triggering the loading requirement. But we're, the city has been very understanding when you're dealing with an existing site, especially when you have a contributing building, that it can be very cumbersome sometimes to introduce loading spaces. And it's more appropriate, and often, in this case, we believe it's more appropriate to have the loading on the street.
Okay, any further questions for staff? Okay, did you want to make a presentation?
Yes, I just wanted to say hello. I'm Sylvia Carmen Covina, Executive Director of the BAS, and I would like to thank the Historic Preservation Board for your consideration today. And we're extremely excited to be presenting this, which we've worked on for so long. and it's really part of the master plan of our expansion, most recently with a rotunda on Collins Park. So again, very excited, and I'd like to introduce our architect, Sharon Johnston, on Johnson Markley and Associates. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. I had a presentation. Is there a way to? Great. Thank you so much. So we today, honored to be here. Thank you for your time. We wanted to just introduce you just to a bit of our work, and then talk about the history of the Bass and how this project fits into that lineage. Johnston Markley is based in Los Angeles. We're also here with our team, Baron Bush, here from Miami. I think just to highlight that our work at Johnston Markley is focused on the arts, new buildings, renovations, spaces for arts education. So this project for the Bass very much fits into the lineage of our expertise and interest in being here in Miami Beach. The Menil Drawing Institute, a very similar climate, and in a way, a similar type of project, a museum in a park. This is a museum on the site of the famous Renzo Piano building from 1987 in Houston, the Menil Collection. And for us, I think the relevance here is just thinking about how to make a publicly accessible building that very much integrates landscape inside and outside and is very accessible to the public. This building is also, the Drawing Institute is very accessible. It's a place for art, it's a place for gathering and learning, and it's centered around the integration of landscape. So gardens are central to how we design the building, and I think are inspiring our work for the Bass. Another project in Basel, Switzerland, and a historic building of the very same year as the Russell Pancoast building. So we're very comfortable working within the context of historic buildings where we're renovating this building, adding gardens, cafes, similar programs, really thinking how the public can move through these buildings in a more contemporary way in terms of visitor services, flow and accessibility. We're also renovating this building and to bring it up to contemporary code. In Chicago, we worked on the Museum of Contemporary Art. Chicago very much follows the tradition of the Bass, a museum in a park. This is a building from the mid-1980s, a German architect, Joseph Paul Kleihues. Our project includes expanding publicly accessible spaces like this artist commons connected to the park outside, new circulation, places for artist activation outside of traditional galleries. Like this project, we have worked on a master plan that re-envisions an expansion of the building, making the base more transparent and accessible, adding a wing centered around a new winter garden. And we worked with the artist Chris O'Feely, reimagining these public spaces, working on color. Chris did a series of site-specific murals that we worked with him on in terms of integrating with the furniture. At a university campus in Los Angeles, Chapman University, we created and expanded a museum. It's called the Hilbert Museum. It's at the edge of the campus. It's centered around a new courtyard that features this important mural from the artist Millard Sheets. So instead of adding square footage, we renovated these two buildings, and the new entry is a garden courtyard, much like the Bass. It's a very mixed-use space. It serves as the entry to these two wings, has events, readings. It's also a pass-through space, and it's fully open and free to enter. For the Whitney Museum of Art in New York, we renovated a former, the artist Roy Lichtenstein was his former studio. It was bequested to the museum, and we made an artist studio edition. So working within the historic Greenwich Village District, we transformed these spaces for artist studios, so very flexible and informal spaces, and made an addition which is for an artist in residence. And this project also included making this building fully university accessible. So I think access is a really central part of our work here at the Bass. And lastly, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, also a building by Arato Isozaki. We completed a master plan and addition proposal for this project. So I wanted to highlight the importance for us of Isozaki's work, and understanding the historic context of his thinking was very much generative of how we thought about this design. It, like the Bass, has a very important kind of civic space, which is this courtyard, and so the addition of new galleries really reinforces this public civic square at the center of the museum. So here is the Bass. This is the image as we see the building today. Just a little bit about the history of the Bass. I think hopefully everybody's familiar with Collins Park. It's really a museum in the park. Collins Park is about 10 acres, and as Sylvia mentioned, I think the work that you all have been doing with the Bass is really about imagining new activations in the park. So the Rotunda was finished this year. Miami Mountain, Sylvia has a plan for a splash pad that will be coming in the future. So art in the park, art exists outside the walls of the Bass already and also includes this beautiful Sylvie Fleury neon sign, Eternity Now. So the project, we looked back at some of the historic visions that Arata Isozaki had when he originally planned this project. And it was about a very simple building and a very specific way to activate the park with landscape and with artist pavilions. This was his original sort of revised proposal for the museum. And he really thought about these different generations of the museum, from the traditional historic room to a much more modern kind of second generation museum, which is what the Bass is today. And in Isozaki's vision for the future generations of art at the Bass was really about very bespoke, intimate ways that artists and audiences could come together, and that is sort of the foundation of our vision. So if this was his original plan, this was what was realized, basically half of that master plan. This was completed around 2001. So just a few contextual images to remind everybody. There was an open courtyard. And then in 2016-17, Isozaki's associate David Gold came back and enclosed the courtyard, expanded the education wing, and a few other interior modifications to expand gallery space and add circulation. So this is really the context that we're working on today. So here's our proposed project. This is the Pan Coast building looking west. Our site is there, as you all know, in the southwest corner of the site, the existing parking lot. Just a few context shots. I'll just direct you to the lower right image, which is our site. It's an unbuilt, sort of the unrealized corner of the museum and a fragment of the overall park. Looking south and north along Park is, of course, the hotel and then the dance school. So we're thinking about those kind of anchor buildings. I think it's worth noting that the way the corner comes together there, each one of those buildings really marks that corner in terms of its architecture and the massing of those buildings. And so we thought very much about how to address the corner in the way that we cited this new pavilion in relationship to the urban corner and also the park and the museum. So here's an illustration of that elevation. I think with the addition, those two pavilions, you get a sense of how the massing starts to break down and allow us to bring landscape and public space right up to those buildings. Our site is about 18,500 square feet. This is a site plan of as the project exists today. There's a parking lot. And here is the proposed ground floor plan, and I'll zoom in to say a little bit more. But we, I think as staff said, we're keeping quite a distance from the existing museum. We're adding a new entry there in orange. I'm not sure if there's this is the new, can you guys see that? Anyway, this orange piece, I guess it's not showing on the screen. There's a small addition to the Isozaki park.
You can use the cursor on the laptop if you'd like.
Okay, yeah, great. So just to clarify, this orange piece is the addition to the Isozaki building, and this is the Pan Coast. So we're not proposing any change to that through this project. So just zooming in a little bit, and you can note that we're highlighting the date of the submitted drawing here. So this is what we submitted. One piece that again, going back to the entry, one of the additions that or developments of the project that we've made since this is to expand that entry. So we've consolidated for visitor services and flow, we've expanded that, and that will be our main point of kind of ticketing and such for the addition. A couple of other just quick highlights that, of course, this is Park here, and then 21st. We have 2 accessible ramps that lead you up to about a 12,000 square foot raised patio, which is at the elevation of the existing museum. So once you get up there, everything is accessible. Our project, the Yellow Square, is the new gallery. There's a covered kind of arrival porch that has top lit daylight, and then the gray outline is the covered patio. So our vision here is that once you get on site, you're in a sheltered from rain and sun, and that allows you to go into the new gallery and the existing museum. A couple of the changes just to highlight that we've relocated the window along Park 21st. It's a smaller window. It's been shifted a little bit to the east. We've removed a bathroom from our building. We've created perforations in the perimeter walls so it's more visually accessible from the street. We've, as I've noted, expanded the reception area and made a few other minor architectural changes that wouldn't really be visible at all to the public. So this is what we submitted, and here is the revised. I think in the section, there's probably not much change at all. I think just also to note that in the new building, all of the mechanical is hidden by the parapets, so we really are thinking a lot about the visibility of, or lack of visibility of all the new infrastructure. So I want to walk you through a few views, of course, to highlight in this view in particular, we've eliminated the landscape so that you can see the proposal. This is from the northwest side of the site. So this was before, and essentially we've been developing the material palette a little bit more. I think that's one of the major changes here. And just in highlight, we were proposing a little bit cooler, a little bit darker palette below that canopy to mitigate sun and reflectivity and such within the kind of main kind of inhabitable part of the project. So here, the upper volumes are now stuccoed. We're working very closely with the palette at the Isesaki building, so that very much mirrors the existing buildings. You can see the new perforated perimeter walls and the board-formed concrete of the gallery walls. So this is before. I think one thing to note too is this window, which before was a continuous storefront window. And now that is a smaller opening. It's about a third of the size. We were just getting too much daylight into the space, and then some of the textures and materials below the canopy you can see there. And those are highlighted here. Once again, now we're on 21st Street, so this is that second ramp behind this wall on the other side of the gallery. Just a little bit more quiet palette beneath the canopy, the stucco, and the window revision. This was the previous proposal, and now basically I think it reflects the new material palette, a few changes in the landscape, I think another thing to highlight here is the expanded vestibule, which combines all of the visitor services in that one location. So this is the new proposed. With the expanded canopy, we've changed and highlights the materials. This is a view towards the Pancoast building, so we're simply proposing that the change here is simply about the garden palette that we're continuing to revise in terms of the plantings. It's a very sort of, we think, a lovely relationship between the historic building and our project. A lot of space between, and the garden becomes kind of the elevation and the veil between the two spaces. And now we're out in the park. This was the proposal before. Once again, it's primarily just some evolutions of the landscape palette. So just one or two remaining slides about the material palette. Above the canopy, which at the street level is about 15 feet above grade, and when you get up to the patio, it's 12. Everything above that is very simple white stucco, and then more textured and specific below. So those materials on the left.
Just really quickly, just how much more time do you think you need?
This is the last slide.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So on the left side of the slide is the existing materials. Of course, the most significant one is the keystone kind of limestone of the Pancoast building, a lot of texture, and so our materials are with the Boreform concrete are trying to reflect that, but also we're engaging Pancoast and also Isesaki. So it's a very subtle palette. I would say the differences have to do with texture and some tone, but we're really trying to harmonize with the different historic eras of the building. And lastly, just a few models to give some context and really reinforce when you see the rotunda in relationship to the pavilions, that I think we're transforming this campus into a series of pavilions in the park, making it more immersed in landscape and accessible to the public. Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any board questions for the applicant? Ray does.
Naturally, because it's Collins Park, I'm always worried about the landscaping. And I noticed that you're taking out all the trees except for transplanting one, but you don't say where you're transplanting that tree. And also, I don't understand why you can't leave tree number 86. It's a nice tree. I believe, looking at the way this is laid out, you should be able to include that in your plan. And usually, whenever somebody is taking over something like this, they take into consideration the trees that are there and try and work somewhat around them. I understand why you can't save any of the others with the covering that you have, but I definitely would like to know where you're transplanting the one tree and why you can't save tree 86.
Okay.
And then the other thing is this a two-story building?
It's a one-story building.
Well, because at the height, you're showing it at the same height as
Yeah.
the other buildings, and they're two-story, so I just was wondering about that.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it comes from a couple different, I'll answer your first question, or the second one about the height. So we need a certain height to have clearance. We have about 18 feet clear inside the gallery. Then we have some area for services, mechanical and lighting. And the new HVAC equipment, the mechanical systems to support this building are on the roof. It was important for us to not have it at grade. And so the final parapet height is blocking that such that from the street, we did a lot of studies to confirm that that wouldn't be visible from vantage points in the park or the surrounding city. So on the other hand, we were looking very carefully at the massing of the building in relationship to the Isesaki structures. So we're just trying to harmonize the kind of urbanistic order and then solve some of the systems.
I also noticed you could have saved tree 24, but that tree is not worth saving. I looked at it very closely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just a quick one. Can you go over the perforated material that you have above to hide the mechanical equipment?
Yeah, so that, the idea there is, this is one of the kind of wall assemblies that we're still finalizing, but we have the idea that it could be either block, like a stuccoed block, and our thinking is that it's possible. I think it gives it a lightness to the facade, so instead of just a completely monolithic building, it gives a kind of detail that you see in other places in the project. I think it's also, certainly a detail that you see around Miami. It's part of our response to a kind of contextual response. It's also possible, something we've been thinking about is it might be a little bit of light might be on the roof, so at night there might be a little bit of light filtering through, which we also think would give the building a lightness.
Okay, go ahead,
How
let's
you-
go.
To the architect. Sorry. How are you going to drain the roof? It doesn't show any details.
Yeah, that's so good that you didn't see. We're trying to hide it really carefully. There's a series of columns. There's 3 or 4 columns that connect the cantilevered roof to the ground. And those are all really carefully calibrated in place such that the drain pipes will be inside of those.
Okay, so nothing external. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for the applicant? No. All right, do we have any board disclosures?
It's going to be a great event space
Yeah.
because it's totally walled in. I mean, right now, whenever you have weddings or anything like that, they're just sort of stuck out in a big park, and also you've tried to bring a cafe outside. It's just like, this will be very nice, all walled in, and I think you've done a really nice job. Thank you.
All right, so do we have anybody on Zoom or anybody in the audience who wants to speak? All right, looks like we have one in the chambers.
Good morning, board members. Meg Lusto of Miami Design Preservation League. We recognize that the HPB's review of the stage is focused primarily on the building's massing materials and architectural detailing, and I now understand that there have been some minor modifications to the plans that we actually reviewed, although I think they're pretty consistent with what we saw. And we are supportive of the staff's conclusion that the proposed contemporary design successfully incorporates references to the site's historic character. We find several design elements to be particularly successful, including the eyebrow detailing, perforated parapets, and the treatment of the main entry, all of which contribute positively to the project's architectural expression. As the design continues to evolve, we look forward to reviewing the final plans and encourage further refinement to assure a more seamless integration between the proposed addition and the existing historic buildings. Thank you.
Do we have anyone on Zoom?
Yes, we have Brian Ehrlich. Good morning, Brian.
Brian, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Brian Ehrlich. I've been a resident in Miami Beach for 21 years. I'm a former member of this board. And full disclosure, I also sit on the board of the Bass. So I'm biased. I'm a big fan of the plan. This is a transformational project for our city. Museums today aren't just collections behind walls anymore. The best ones now live indoors and out. And they're built for people first, centered around community. This is our chance to build this kind of public space that Miami Beach so desperately needs at a time when many spaces have become privatized. The Bass campus has never been one building. As we saw earlier in the presentation, Pan Coast gave us the original Florida Keystone structure in 1930, the library. Arata Izusaki gave us the art wing decades later. 2 architects, 2 eras, and until now, 2 buildings that never quite spoke to one another. And what's so cool about this project is it becomes the connective tissue, the piece that finally joins these buildings, our existing art installations in this city, and the campus to the community around it. When I think about the Bass, I think about Ugo Rondinoni's neon boulders watching over Collins Park, Sylvie Flori's Eternity Now glowing along Collins, and the city's efforts to preserve the Rotunda as a curatorial gem. Soon enough, we're gonna have Lawrence Weiner's Splash Pad, which is an interactive, refreshing oasis for anybody that steps onto it. But none of these elements ask somebody to buy a ticket first. They just meet people where you already are. And the expansion in front of you today takes that same instinct and it builds it into the architecture itself. This site already has everything worth building around. The majestic baobab trees that Ray was talking about, Pan Coast's original Florida Keystone. It is a plan worthy of this arts and culture campus. It works by embracing what we already have. Now, museum attendance is actually dropping nationally, not because people stopped caring about art, but because for too long, the model was 4 walls and an admission desk. And that isn't how people want to experience culture anymore. Look at what's brilliant about this design. That parking lot on the southwest corner becomes a striking entrance that finally beckons people to come in, and you know exactly where the entrance of the museum is. A new gathering garden space built for people instead of cars, surrounded by tropical landscaping. All the art moves outside as well as in across the site, not confined to just one room. This museum isn't adding a wing so much as it's rethinking what counts as the museum in the first place. The city already voted yes on this once with the GO bond for the arts and the residents. The best museums today aren't choosing between the past and what's next. They're building both at the same time. This board and this architect have the chance to shape what this museum becomes for the next century and to truly improve the lives of all of our residents. I think that the design and the waiver deserves your support, and I really look forward to seeing the final plans that you all conjure up together. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Do we have anybody else on Zoom? No? Okay. Board commentary, Randy? Right?
Just what is the difference between now and when you're coming back? I did notice a lot of things in the book where in some places you show like shrubbery along the wall, and then other renderings there's no shrubbery.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, which is it?
Yeah, I
Shrubbery
think I
and not.
noted in some views we were just trying to show you the architecture, and so we didn't include that. But I think the landscape palette is something that would be finalized by the next hearing. That's a key piece of the project.
Anyone else have board commentary? Go ahead.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I'm very happy to see that that wasted corner of the lot is finally being used for, it's being put for a good use. But as they say, either God or the devil is in the detail. So I'm looking forward to seeing the rest, the next generation of the plans and where you have all the details more worked out, so it will be easier for us to understand the final look of the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're looking at, and maybe this discussion for the board, they've asked, do you have commentary?
I could comment.
Go ahead then.
I'm comfortable to approve this today, and with the recommendation, you work with staff to iron out the details. That's it.
Okay, so, I mean, and that's what I was going to say. So before us, we have the option to approve, or we have an option to continue. And so, do we have a motion?
I would make what I just stated as a motion to approve this today. If everybody's comfortable with that, I feel confident that staff could certainly deal with the minor details regarding the design.
I beg to disagree. I think I would love to see the next reiteration of the design with more details, because, I mean, as I think the details will make a difference in the project. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion such that we would take a vote, or are you withdrawing your motion, Mitch?
I'll let it stand.
Okay.
And if someone wants to second it, they can.
Okay.
I would second it as long as staff looks very closely at the landscaping part of the plan, for the final. I know that you know what we're looking for, and I feel comfortable that you could do that.
I'm confident we can review the permit in accordance with our landscape code requirements. I wouldn't be as confident trying to act on behalf of the board without more specific direction.
Okay.
But in terms of reviewing the landscape plan in accordance with the minimum landscape requirements, absolutely no problem.
So can we take a vote on the motion as it stands? Because I think we need and I think we shouldn't really be making commentary on the motion. But I mean, that was a friendly amendment, and staff is saying that, does that meet your friendly amendment requirements, or would you withdraw your second for that reason?
No, I'll leave the second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
I just want to be clear. So Elizabeth, you want to continue this?
No, this is to approve it.
I'd support Elizabeth's.
I would love to continue, and I really appreciate your presentation. I really love the design, but I think there are a lot of details that are not developed yet, and I think they will make a big difference for the project, and I'd love to see them before we give you the final approval.
Okay.
So, and I apologize to have you to come back, but I think it's part of the development of a project. And being something of such a large scope and so meaningful for the city, I think it's important for us to take another look.
So just to keep with what we need to do here, we have a motion, we have a second, so therefore we need to take a vote. If that vote doesn't pass, then we can present a second motion by the, no, it's just a motion and a second. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, so we need to take a vote. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Yes, but can I make one friendly suggestion that we have some conditions in the draft order. I would ask that those be incorporated with the exception of C1B, which is a paint color to be reviewed by the board. I'm comfortable with doing that, staff, so I would ask that the motion include the removal of that particular condition, and that the motion include a reference to the presentation that was given today, because that is slightly different than what is included in your package. So does the...
Yes,
Okay.
I accept that.
Okay, so can we do a roll call vote, please? on
Yes,
this one?
I will do the roll call. Ms. Camargo?
No.
Mr. Meyer?
No.
Mr. Breslin?
Yes.
Mr. Novick?
Yes.
Ms. Level? Oh, Mr. Hollingworth,
No.
excuse me? Ms. Level?
No.
Okay, so that fails.
Okay, so now we will need a motion to reconsider by a member who voted on the prevailing side. So anyone who voted no could make the motion.
So I'll make a motion to request the applicant to present again to this board.
We first need, Elizabeth, a
Okay,
motion
sorry,
to reconsider.
Okay, I'll make a motion to reconsider the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to reconsider?
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries.
So now we can make.
Elizabeth, would you like to make the motion?
So I'll make a motion to ask the applicant to present the project again once all the details have been developed, and to include the staff recommendations as Debbie has mentioned.
Do we have a second for the motion?
A second.
And can I make a comment on, I would like for, after, assuming this motion passes, for us to provide some additional feedback to the applicant regarding what we want to see in this continuance, so that you come back with the information and we can approve it, which I expect will be the outcome.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Okay, so are my movement and my second, are you guys okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with your friendly amendment.
And this is to the September meeting, correct?
That's our plan.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So we'll see you back in September, but I think the board wants to discuss what they expect to
So
see.
I think Elizabeth spoke about it a little bit, and I just didn't get a chance because we had a motion and second on the table. So I'm curious to see any sort of tree mitigation that we can do. I understand there's an option to pay fees, but within the park, Ray caught me with that, and I want to see more of that and kind of more information on what we're doing. I know some of the trees that we're losing, I'm very sad to lose. I get that some of them we have to. But I think that was the part that our Madam Planning Director was saying, that she could abide by the code, but what we're looking for. And so perhaps, Ray, if you can speak to that a little bit more. I don't know if you have anything else. And then Randy, I think, has some commentary as well.
Yes.
Go ahead.
My concern is that projects like this become very architectural, and so architectural that they become a statement that sort of lack that sensitivity to the pedestrian. And in the drawings, I see it, and there's an inconsistency, as said, that you see this very architectural drawing. You even admitted, for the architecture, we get rid of the landscape. And I fear that in the final, we end up with these very stark, very hot, sort of hostile architectural projects. So I just want to make sure that on the streetscape, we don't end up with these very, architectural statement versus an urban design statement is a very important project. And also the whole point of minimum code, this project definitely cannot be minimum code.
Right.
And I don't think you're treating it like that.
Totally agree.
But to review it like that would be just, terrible. It's like minimum architecture. It's not. It's a design. I think the landscape is very, very important.
We
I'm
totally
not saying tree it all up with trees. I'm just saying the walking experience around that project on the sidewalks is also very, very important.
Completely agree. Thank you for your sensitivity to that.
Do we have any other feedback relating to their return in September?
September
Thank
15th,
you.
I think it is.
No? Do you have any questions for us that you need answered prior to that time?
I don't think so. I mean, we have so much support from the staff, so I think we'll be well prepared, and
Okay,
so
wonderful.
appreciate the input.
Okay, thank you very
so
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And if you are relocating tree number 28, I want to know where it's going.
I heard you.
And
Okay.
You could probably keep it. but-
actually,
Yeah.
unrelated to the trees, will we have updated materials showing the updated presentation? What was already represented in the presentation is different than the materials we had before. So will we have updated materials for the continuance in September?
Yes, I mean.
I'm getting
have
ahead, not over here.
everything- Yes, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you so
thank you.
much. All right, appreciate it.
Oh my.
Okay, the next application is HPB 260692. This is 141 to 145 South Shore Drive. An application has been filed requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of two existing one-story contributing structures within the North Beach National Register District. This is also within the North Shore Local Historic District, and the construction of a new four-story multifamily residential building. They are also requesting a waiver from the minimum understory height requirements. So this particular application does involve two contributing buildings that were designed by Gilbert Fine and constructed in 1953. They are both one-story structures and have been remained relatively intact since their original design and construction. Staff takes any request for total demolition of a contributing building very seriously. We did evaluate these based on the existing conditions. I will say the existing, these properties are located in the RM1 residential zoning district. The only allowable uses in this district is residential. Both buildings currently sit below 6 feet NGVD. Any residential unit for this particular property would be required to be at a minimum of 9 NGVD. So during our discussions with the applicant, we did express concern over the demolition. However, balancing the requirements for housing, identifying these buildings as very challenging to adapt, primarily given their one-story design. This is something that during the local designation process, which I was extremely involved in, we did have discussions with the board. We do, at the time of the designation, we surveyed all of the buildings. In that was kind of the second survey, right? Because they were surveyed first for the National Register listing. We resurveyed them for the local district designation 10 years later. And we did discuss one-story buildings and how one-story buildings, particularly of this construction period in the post-war, were likely not going to be able to be saved. Specifically, if they're converted to residential use and cannot be lifted, that there's really no viable use for these particular properties without a significant, if not total demolition. And we did, when those local districts were adopted, we also pointed out that because of the uniqueness of Miami Beach, but in particular this area, that we're likely going to have to be more flexible in terms of creative design and potentially demolition within this area in order to revitalize this particular neighborhood with new housing stock. So after, discussing this with the applicant, we are supporting the demolition request. I think it's also very important to point out, and for anyone watching, that this is not a situation of demolition by neglect. This is a property owner that maintained these buildings. They had tenants in the buildings. They went through building recertification processes. So this is not an instance where the property owner is coming before you saying, well, I neglected my property for the past 20 years and I have no alternative. This is more of a practical challenge to the city in terms of how do we, if possible, adapt some of these one-story buildings with a slab-type foundation. So long story short, we are supporting the demolition. We would also commend the applicant on the new design. There are very specific regulations in this North Beach National Register overlay area that do require additional movement in the facade. You can see how the taller height is stepped back from the street. The units will have at least 2 exposures to natural light and air. That's part of this Conservation District overlay. So in general, we're supportive of the design. They've also proposed to incorporate high-quality stone material at the lower portion. They've introduced some additional features that do reference the post-war character of North Beach, including projecting eyebrows and vertical elements as a counterpoint to the horizontal emphasis of the building. So we are supportive of the design, and we are asking the board to approve the certificate of appropriateness. In addition to the certificate of appropriateness, the applicant is also requesting a waiver. The regulations require a ground floor of a new project to have a floor-to-ceiling height clearance of 12 feet above base flood elevation plus freeboard. So again, base flood elevation plus freeboard here is 9. So it would be, the requirement, the strict requirement is 12 feet above that point. They are proposing to have 10 feet, which staff does believe is adequate. I think by, lowering that, by requesting that 2-foot waiver, it does help the character of the district more so than if that ground floor had to be taller. So we are supportive of the waiver as well. I'm also available for any questions if you have, but if not, we can turn it over to the applicant.
Do we have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, go ahead.
Can we put the presentation on? Thank you. Let me start here. So, good morning. My name is Eddie Seymour with Flux Architects. I am representing the applicant for the proposed project on 141 and 145 South Shore Drive. So here on the screen, we're showing a map showing there are currently 2 existing 1-story buildings.
Could you move the microphone a little closer?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Okay. So there are currently 2 existing 1-story buildings on the site, which are contributing to the North Beach National Register. They were designed by architect Gilbert Fine in the post-war modern style. Both buildings have approximately a height of 10 feet. Each building has 4 units for a total of 8 units. And they are adjacent to the Normandy Shores Golf Course. On either side of these properties, there are 2-story buildings, which I'm showing here. If you look at the top right corner, there are 2-story existing buildings on either side. Directly in front, in the center image here, there's a 6-story building. And just 2 blocks over on the west side, there's a brandly completed 4-story building with 49 total units. So as you can see, our neighbors are significantly taller in height than what the current buildings are. Currently, like staff mentioned, both existing buildings are 2.5 feet below the base flood elevation of 8 NGBD, which has led to a sporadic flooding and subsequent damages, which has caused hardships not only to the tenants, but also to the owners, due to the repair costs and the high insurance premiums. So this proposal is seeking to replace the 2 existing buildings with a high-quality residential offering that respects the architectural heritage of Normandy Isles, while introducing a contemporary living standards. So if I go back to the front here, this is a rendering showing the proposed facade of the building. And if I first, I want to explain that we gathered inspirational images for the post-war contemporary style, and we picked up on some certain elements, such as the flat roof lines, the cantilevered eyebrows and balconies, the clean lines, the step backs in the facade, and we tried to incorporate that into this design that we're presenting today, while trying to minimize the height in the front and also making it somewhat user-friendly and trying to make it fit into the context of the neighborhood. So first, if you look at the ground level, we have a central lobby which incorporates ceiling to floor, floor to ceiling storefronts. And we also broke up the building in the center by incorporating a courtyard on the second floor in order to pay homage to the existing 2 buildings that are there now and further break up the facade on the front street. So it's not just a massive solid building in the front. We tried to really break up that facade. And by doing so on the second floor, we also have a secondary advantage to doing that. We have a courtyard that can be used by the tenants, the residents, which acts as a generator of connectivity between the neighbors. You can go outside, get some fresh air, enjoy the views right from that courtyard into the street front. And so we feel like that was very appropriate for this proposal. On the ground floor, we also have, we're proposing to have a limestone finish that more or less wraps around the entire ground floor of the building in order to break up the materiality of the building as well. So it's not all just a stucco finish on the exterior. We are also proposing, as you can see here, on the second floor balconies, once you go up to the third floor, the balcony there is slightly stepped back in order to reinforce the idea of the step back, which was very common in that architectural style. And also, once you get to the roof line, like the staff mentioned, we are respecting the required setbacks, which are an additional 25 feet at a height of above 32 feet. We are respecting that and providing that setback for the rest of the building. And now I would like to show you some axonometric views of the building, which, if I can zoom in here, which to further explain what's happening up there. I think this view from the front facade gives you a better understanding of what's happening on the roof line. So as you can see here on the front, we are respecting that additional setback. And for the residents in those upper units, we are providing some very nice, ample size roof terraces. Which every single roof terrace would have a summer kitchen with a pergola to provide shading for the residents that would be using those spaces. And we try to really maximize on that level. We try to maximize the roof terraces as much as we possibly could. So we just have basically a landing area for the residents of the units below to walk up to that space and then exit into the exterior. On the very top level, we are providing a 4-foot 8-inch parapet to make sure that we are covering any mechanical equipment that would go up there. And let me just continue through. Oh, and I also want to mention that on that front facade, we are also providing the required front porch area. If you look there on the bottom left corner, we are providing that, which is a requirement, so we were able to meet that requirement. And we also have a considerable amount of landscaping. We decided to provide a tiered approach. So we have basically the landscaping at the ground level, and then we have a midway planter, I guess you could say it's like halfway up that porch area, in order to provide further landscaping in front of that porch. So it's not just a blank, solid wall on the front street. Oh, sorry. Let me go back. And I also want to mention that we are providing ADA access. If I can just get the right image. We are providing ADA access from the street. On the west side, we have an ADA compliant ramp that goes up into the higher elevation of the base floor. So you have ADA access to the front porch and also to the garage level, on the first level. Here we have a diagram showing the existing buildings, the height of the existing buildings in comparison to the neighbors, and the height of the proposed building. Here I want to show you the ground level site plan. So as you can see from the street level, we have the main entrance with the front porch, and we have the driveway, which provides access to the parking on the ground floor. So for the one-bedroom units, we're providing one stall, and for the two-bedroom units, we're providing 2 stalls in tandem arrangement. So all the units would have parking. If you go up to the second floor, here you can see that central courtyard that I mentioned earlier. And also we are proposing a fitness area on that second level. It's not, I would say it's not a large fitness area, but it's whatever we were able to fit within the very constrained sites. So that would act as an amenity for the residents. And then here on the third level, all of these units would have access to the upper level roof terrace. And this is that roof level, terrace level that I mentioned earlier. So here you can see the stairs from the units below that would go up to this level, and then you would have direct access to the outside on the roof terrace. Here we have the elevations showing the heights, the proposed heights of the building. I do want to mention that the maximum height allowed in this district is 45 feet, and we are slightly below that by 4 inches. We are proposing 44 feet and 8 inches. Going to the top of the parapet. And here we also have some sections cutting through the building at different locations. Again, showing that we are trying to respect the front street by setting back the building and meeting the required setback at the front. We also have some landscaping plans. We understand that it's a very tight site, but we also wanted to make sure that we provided the necessary landscaping and meet the requirements, not just the minimum requirements, but try to go above and beyond. So as you can see here, we have a full set of landscaping plans with the legend, and we have a variety of different tree types that we are proposing, especially along the front facade, the street facade, to make sure that we make that a very appealing and a net positive to the neighborhood. Here we have that legend showing all the different vegetation that we are proposing. And we also show the plans for that courtyard, the third floor, and that roof level as well, where we have the roof terraces. So I think at this point, I'd like to turn it over to you guys if you have any questions for me.
Okay. Do we have any questions for the applicant?
Do you have a sample of this railing material? Because it looks, in my opinion, like, almost like I'm in jail. And if you have a sample that we could look at, that would be really great. In your entrance, I mean, it looks like a gangway. It should be wider. Why aren't you bringing your front porch area all the way over to the end of the windows and having a wider staircase going up to the building? I mean, it's a beautiful building, and you've got this little narrow stairway going up to it, which I think is degrading to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we can certainly make that change and make that improvement.
Randy, you have questions?
Yeah, I second that also. I don't know if the renderings are inaccurate. Are all the windows dark tinted on the building? Because that looks like that in the renderings. Or are they just clear glass?
Yeah, it would not be a dark tint. It would be a light grayish tint, which was recommended to us by staff as typical of that architectural style.
Okay, it's just, on the previous comment was the whole entry area looks really negative because in the rendering, it looks like a dark windows, you can't see in. It doesn't look like the building has an entrance. I guess that would be my best statement. It's missing that feeling of where do you enter? Is it covered, protected? It's completely exposed. It has no canopy. I think the whole entry could be a lot more attractive and be consistent with the two side pieces, which are also very nice because they reflect the style of what was there. So
Okay,
I think your entry area needs work. I think that the rendering of the perspective is different from a landscape point of view than the plan. I'm trying to figure out what's actually on the plan. Okay. Because the rendering isn't representative of your actual landscape plan. I'm just trying to figure it out. Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? on this
No,
one?
I just agree with what has been said about the entrance. It has no expression of the entrance. And I think like the mullions, they are very narrow. I think nowadays you can have nice wider panes of glass, and it's not extremely unaffordable as it used to be in the past. And you could make more of a gesture at the entrance, making the stairs wider, having a covered area. I mean, if it's pouring and you need to open the door with a key, you don't want to be drenched. So I think you could improve the entrance that way. And I just have something that I would like to share with everybody about the elevation of this building, because I understand that the 9 feet, it's the base flood elevation plus freeboard, but it's the minimum freeboard. So it brings you to 9 feet, which I understand the concerns of making it lower because of the accessibility from the street, which is, you have to several feet to go up. But my concern is that when you make the lobby level at 10 only, and let's say in the future, the situation gets worse, you don't have much room to grow. So let's say your lobby start getting flooded because the sea level is rising, and you are only at 10 feet at that point. If you have your lobby height a little bit more generous, you still have some room to raise the floor elevation of your lobby level and still be another foot above flooding.
Okay.
So I understand the constraints, but I think if we're preparing ourselves for the future, we need to understand that the conditions may change as been anticipated. And the neighborhood will change too. So maybe we're trying to make the building today a little bit more cohesive with the neighborhood, but that neighborhood will be changing, and maybe in 5 years from now, the neighbor will be building at 13 above NGVD instead of, so I think there is some space for flexibility in that.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Any other questions? Pascal? No more questions, okay. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, do we have any board disclosures? No? Okay. Do we have comment? So we have one speaker in the audience. Do we have anyone on Zoom? Okay, all right.
Good morning again. Meg Lusto, Miami Design Preservation League. We do not oppose proposed demolition. We understand the staff's rationale there. And we commend several aspects of the proposal for new construction, including the building setback, the overall massing strategy, and the incorporation of the central courtyard, all of which contribute positively to the project's site planning and spatial organization. However, we have significant concerns regarding the architectural design. Overall, the project lacks originality with an aesthetic that looks dated. The composition, color, and material palette appear disjointed, resulting in an overall impression that lacks cohesion and visual refinement. The facade lacks a clear hierarchy with numerous projecting elements that create visual clutter rather than a cohesive composition. We suggest that the design draw more directly from the city's pre-existing mid-century architecture and respond more thoughtfully to the character of the surrounding neighborhood. While contemporary design is entirely appropriate, it should reflect the distinctive character of Miami Beach, rather than rely on a generic multifamily vocabulary that could be found in any growing metropolitan area. New construction should reinforce the city's unique architectural identity and sense of place. And if I can just add, I think you had a great example of that just down the street earlier today during this meeting with the affordable elderly housing, the Breeze building. Greater emphasis should be placed on the use of higher quality, contextually appropriate materials that reflect the South Florida vernacular. For example, the proposed railings are harsh and institutional and present an opportunity for a more thoughtful and distinctive design that could contribute to the overall character. Several design elements appear inconsistent throughout the project, diminishing the strength of the overall composition. In particular, the exterior stairwell is a significant concern as it appears disconnected from the building's architectural expression and feels like an afterthought rather than part of the configuration. The proposed color palette further contributes to the lack of cohesion, and the ground floor reads as closed off with limited visual and functional engagement. Greater attention should be given to the pedestrian experience by creating more open, inviting, and visually engaging ground floor that fosters a stronger connection between the building and those who experience it at street level. Miami Beach has earned its global reputation through architecture that is distinctive, enduring, and rooted in its local context. Almost done. Where buildings are designed to express both their function and the character of the neighborhoods they serve. We encourage this project to aspire to that same level of architectural excellence by creating a building that will contribute positively to the city's design legacy for decades to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have someone on Zoom, correct?
Yes, we have Carlos Chineros.
Carlos, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Thank you. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm a neighbor. I live across the property that is being discussed right now. My concern is that we are changing the character of the neighborhood. On top of that, we are, incrementing the density of the area. It is a pretty small street, pretty quiet area of Normandy. My concern is that this type of constructions will change the character, will create more traffic problems because we will drive more people to the zone, of course. I'm worried that this will continue happening with another similar buildings that are pretty distinctive in style. The way it is now is what drove us here to this particular area. So we are not particularly happy with this project.
Do we have anyone else? No? Okay. Okay. Board members, okay, Ray, you have commentary?
Well, I think just based on our comments, we're probably really looking at continuing this item. But however, I think if we're going to do that, we have to first off vote on whether we approve the demolition, as a board. And then once we do that, knows whether he can go on to.
So it's all one vote?
Huh?
So it would be all one vote?
Well, the thing is that if, I think we're going to have to continue it, and I'd hate to see it then get shot down because somebody doesn't want the demolition. That's the only thing.
What you could do is take a straw poll on the demolition, but I wouldn't recommend separating the vote.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
so-
we could do that.
I mean, we could certainly do that. I mean, I will say that I'm of the opinion that I want to see the project as proposed, which factors into my decision on demolition, if that makes sense, right? So, we could take a straw poll. I guess I would say, like, if the project works, then my support of demolition would be related to that, I guess, is my point. But if you want to take a straw poll, I'm happy to do that.
I was only concerned that, like, we give him all of these comments, and he goes and changes everything, and then comes back, and we say, oh, we don't want to have the building demolished. That was my concern.
That is fair. So if I'm trying to figure out how to phrase that. So I guess a straw poll as to, would you be in favor of demolition pending an acceptable project, a project that garners the support of the board? So if we can take a straw poll on that. Okay. Can I call the roll, or are you calling the roll? Okay. Randy?
Yes.
Okay. And make sure your mic is on, guys. Ray?
Yes.
Haskell?
Yes.
Mitch?
I'd be supportive of the demolition. I do believe, I appreciated Meg's comments from MDPL. The project we reviewed earlier in the same neighborhood was of extraordinary design. This has, I believe, a way to go to at least meet that threshold, in my opinion.
Okay. Elizabeth?
Me too.
Okay. And as I said, I would be supportive of demolition, pending a project that gets the support of the board. So obviously that's not binding, but that gives you an idea and ownership to the extent that they're here in this room. So do we have any further commentary that we would like to provide to the applicant? I anticipate that we're going to move and vote for a continuance, so commentary that would help them achieve what we're looking for when continued.
Well, I've sort of said in the beginning, I didn't like the railing structure at all. That's why I thought if you had a sample of it, you could change my mind. But right now, I looked at that and said, you've got to be kidding me. And then to see that gangway entrance, like you're going to a cruise ship or anything, it doesn't work with that building at all. And I think you have to look at that very carefully when you come back.
Absolutely. We'll do that.
Haskell, you have questions?
I do have a question first, and then I'll make my comments. Why do you find the need to encroach into the setback with your balconies? You're extending about 3 to 4 feet in some cases. Why?
Yeah, so that was actually in conversation with the staff. we were encouraged that we can encroach up to 25% allowed by the code in order to further define the architectural style, which is very common to have those large wraparound balconies and eyebrows.
Okay, this point leads me to an overall view of where we're headed in the city. You know, a few properties to the west, it starts single-family homes. Most of the buildings in the area were 2 stories until probably the 60s and 70s when they started to go up to 5 or 6 stories. And essentially, that's what we're building here, about 4 or 5, 6-story building. I'm just not sure that I can support that idea. I see it in too many buildings around the city where they're out of context in terms of their mass and relative to the surrounding neighborhood. I don't want to stop you from doing this project. I think it improves the area in terms of benefit to residents, giving them options. But to have such a large project on such a site and then extend beyond into the setbacks, it's something that I can't approve because we're opening up that Pandora's box again and future properties all over the city, and I can give you dozens of examples that just are not in context with the original character and what we should maintain in this city. So as of today, any encroachment for me into the setbacks when you're designing a 50, 60 foot tall building, I will not support. Just FYI. Thank you.
Understood.
Mitch?
Yeah, I just wish you could design this with a little better homage to mid-century architecture. I just don't see it here. And I think it would be incompatible with the neighborhood as designed.
Elizabeth, did you have any commentary?
I just have Mitch, if you could clarify when you say incompatible with the neighborhood, you're talking about the massing or the architectural style, or both?
Architectural style and, contextually, quite frankly, I'm not familiar with this immediate block.
Well, I will say on this block, we have the project that came before us earlier today.
Yeah.
And the one across the street. So those two, I mean, they're newer, obviously, but those would be context. They're,
Good point.
Yeah, I'm just-
And as stated, the project that came to us earlier was extraordinary in design. And this, I think there's room for much improvement. I appreciate what Ray, my colleague Ray, had stated. It looks like a gangway. Those 2 doors are just cold. The stairway is uninviting. I think there's ways to address that to make it more palatable for the pedestrian and for the neighborhood. And also, the railing system, what about exploring breeze block or something to soften that utilitarian feeling that I see here.
Okay.
So, my commentary, I tend to agree with the commentary about the front entrance. I would speculate, I'm not going to try to get into your head, but I would speculate that the expectation is the residents are going to pull into the parking and they're going to come in through the back. And so perhaps there wasn't as much thought given to the front entrance because you don't expect them to be arriving on foot and going through the lobby from the front, but their guests will. The people in the neighborhood are going to be walking by, et cetera. And so kind of balancing that arrival perspective from the resident who's going to pull in and probably not come through the front, and the arrival of their guests or the walk by of the neighbors within the context of the neighborhood. I will say, and I will defer to the experts, which would be city and obviously the applicant's architect, that while I think there's been a lot of commendation towards Breeze and Vista. Are they typical of the style of the post-war or the mid-century style? Yes, but they also read a little to me, little commercial to me. The solid flat front with no articulation or breakup of that solid piece. So I personally appreciate some sort of, the windows or something that's going to provide texture to the front facade. And you're there or you're going there. We're getting some feedback to kind of make some changes. And so those are my opinions. And I thought I would put that out there for the record so that you have that information. So perhaps working with staff to kind of find, I'll call it a happy medium between the two, and to not go so far over there. Also, given the style of your development, I don't expect that that's going to be the case of a solid front wall, but I looked at the Breeze and Vista where it looked like Macy's, the old Burdines, that's what it read to me. And so I just wanted to provide that piece of feedback, to not swing too far that direction would be my preference.
Understood.
So that's the commentary. It seems as though we're leaning towards a continuance. Do we have a motion or second as to how to handle the application? Right?
I move to continue it. To
Okay.
what date would they like?
Do you have a preference as to timeline?
September?
Yeah, September.
September, okay. And what's the deadline for them to have things back?
It will be early next month, so we'll reach out to you to confirm.
I just want to make sure that gives you enough
exact
time,
deadline.
that's all.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I will
Motion to continue?
second the motion.
A second? Take a vote?
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll see you in September.
Thank you. Good luck.
Okay, Madam Chair, I don't think we have any other business from staff on the agenda, and if the board has nothing further, we can adjourn.
No, we can adjourn, and we are in recess in August, and we'll be back in September.